Hi, Pastor Mark and Pastor David. My church is about to start teaching a series on church hurt. I'm curious how healthy Christians/pastors like yourselves, thank you, help folks find and understand the balance between dictatorship and shepherding in ministry. Also, what are some indicators that church leadership might be unhealthy?
Sure.
You want to go first?
It's an excellent question. I would say that it's one of the areas that trying to keep the car in the ditch. I've got to get in the ditch, out of the ditch,
right?
Between the ditches. That's continually. So areas of authoritative. I was trying to think. Coming out of the 70s into the early 80s, there was a movement actually called shepherdship, in which the revelation that, hey, you need a shepherd in your life. And so because of that, people would submit themselves to a church, ultimately then to a pastor or to some other kind of leader. And that leader would go so far as to tell them even what color shirt to wear, what color tie to wear.
That's crazy.
Goes so far who you're going to marry and who you're not going to marry.
Sounds like a cult.
I would say it's one of the identifying markers of a cult. So that not being the case in any way with us or with me in thinking that way. So, there's areas of being a shepherd, and a shepherd is a type of authority, but we're not believing in that extremism of shepherdship.
Chris, I love this. I think it's a great question. I think doing a church series, taking your church through a series on church hurt, I think is super relevant. I know a lot of people have questions about this and struggle with this idea. What I would say is you need to start, I think you need to start not with examples, and I don't know how you're doing this, but I would say don't start with examples of church hurt or examples of where ministries have fallen short. We all can name 20 different people that we know that have fallen short. They're everywhere. I would start with understanding the importance of spiritual authority in our lives. Because I think our culture in general, I think almost every issue can be boiled down to an authority issue. It all comes down to authority. We see fatherlessness and the statistics of fatherlessness with crime and infidelity and all these different things. You can go down the list. It's an authority issue. And then also not only that, but with deconstruction, with people walking from their faith, so much of the so-called church hurt, I wouldn't say is so much church hurt as much as it is misunderstanding the role of the church and the role of the pastor in our lives. I think where you got to start off with is recognizing we're combating this cultural mindset that everything in life is centered around me. I am the locus of authority in my life. And so if it feels right for me, if it is right for me, and we see that on extremes, in our culture. Sure, we can all look to some of those examples. And so I think first off, recognizing that you're combating this idea that we have to first learn to kind of decenter ourselves so that we can actually receive the authority of God and receive the authority from our pastors. Because the role of the church and the role of pastors is to shepherd and is to guide and is to discipline. I was going to pull up. Oops. I was going to pull up 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy 4:3. So, I charge you in the presence of God and Jesus Christ. Well, this is first off, coming off what Dad was just talking about. All Scripture is breathed out by God, profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness, that the man of God might be complete, equipped for every good work. The way in which we train, the way in which which actually he even says that, is what you have learned from childhood. But as for you, continue in what you have learned and have firmly believed, knowing from whom you have learned it. This is Paul writing to Timothy. Remember what you've been taught. So there's leadership, there's covering over you, and then that's done through Scripture, because Scripture is profitable for you. It's good for you for teaching, for reproof, for correction, meaning it's not always going to feel good. It's not always going to be a TED Talk of encouragement. There actually may be some time where it's a little prickly and it's a little
reproof,
uncomfortable.
correction. I mean, this is this is
Because this is how the man of God is made complete and equipped for every good work. Because then he goes on, I charge you in the presence of God and of Jesus Christ, who is to judge the living and the dead, and by appearing in his kingdoms, preach the word. This is how we do it. Be ready in season, out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort, encourage, with complete patience and teaching. Because here we go. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves. They'll have their own algorithms for themselves, teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. And so I think the first role that we have to take in helping people understand church hurt and where this comes from is first thing we need to understand what is the role of a pastor and of a church. It's almost like signing up for a gym membership and then being mad that your gym instructor is telling you to do more push-ups. It's like, well, it hurts. It's supposed to a little bit. That's kind of the point.
Honestly, all of us need somebody in our lives that we're connected to well enough. Friends can be a very broad word, but I mean, you're connected to. Let me just ask you that. Do you have somebody in your life who has the ability to call you a jerk if you're being a jerk?
That's good.
Or does the first time sometimes like that comes along, you're out of here?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, sometimes we need people in our lives to just call us out when we're being stupid.
Right.
And be able to say it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.